Imagine being a part of Formula One, one of the most prestigious motorsport events in the world, and not just being a part, but being the second in the Constructors' Championship after finishing 7th in the previous season. Sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? Well, for Aston Martin, it's a reality. A reality as fascinating as it is perplexing. But hold on a minute, within this fairy tale lies a character that seems a bit, let's say, out of place. Meet Lance Stroll, the proverbial square peg in the round hole. A talented driver with a few podium finishes to his credit, yet struggles to find consistent form. And this poses a question that's worth $1 million and yet surprisingly doesn't have a clear answer. A question that has put Aston Martin and its future in Formula One into a bit of a predicament. The question, my friends, is should he stay or should he go? Stick around as we dive deep into this intriguing conundrum and maybe, just maybe, we'll find the answer together. So who's this Lawrence Stroll we're talking about? Well, let's rewind a bit. Lawrence hails from a fashion dynasty, with his roots tracing back to the flamboyant fashion industry of Canada. He took his family business several notches higher, becoming a billionaire mogul with ties to luxury brands across the globe. But this fashion bigwig has a serious side affair with racing. Through his son Lance, his personal passion, and a racetrack he owned in Canada, he's been deeply intertwined with the world of motorsport. Fast forward to when Vijay Mallya, the owner of Force India, found himself in a colossal fraud scandal with the Indian government, Lawrence Stroll emerged as a knight in shining armour. With his robust bank balance and love for racing, he led a group of buyers to save the team from collapse, and by the end of the 2018 season, Lawrence's son Lance had already demonstrated his mettle on the racing tracks, proving that he was no pushover in Formula One. So naturally, where better for Lance to steer his career than his dad's very own team? But here's where things get a tad controversial. Did Lawrence buy an entire Formula One team just to give Lance a guaranteed seat? Was it all about making his son's racing dreams come true? While we may never know the real answer, let's just say even for a tycoon like Lawrence, it seems a bit of a stretch to splurge on a Formula One team purely for his son's benefit. As our story continues, let's look at a major twist in the tale. Force India, as we knew it, underwent a stunning transformation. Enter Aston Martin, a name that rings with luxury, elegance, and unrivaled style. And who better to lead this transformation than Lawrence Stroll, a man with a passion for racing and a knack for business. Putting his billions to work, Lawrence led the charge, investing heavily to breathe life into this iconic brand. It wasn't just a rebranding, it was a revitalization, a new chapter in the storied legacy of Aston Martin. But Lawrence isn't one to rest on laurels. Buying a Formula One team and rebranding it to Aston Martin wasn't just a business venture. For him, it was more personal, more ambitious. He didn't just want to participate in the races, he wanted to win. And not just win races, he had his sights on the ultimate prize, championships. And with that ambitious dream in mind, the new Aston Martin took to the tracks, ready to take on the world of Formula One. The question was, could they live up to this lofty ambition? Now, let's shift gears and zoom in on Lance Stroll himself. In the world of Formula One, Lance is no stranger. Yes, he's young, but he's shown us he's got skills, bagging a few podium finishes during his career. However, being a part of this elite world isn't just about the victories you've achieved, it's about the consistency you maintain. And looking at this season, Lance's journey has been a bit of a roller coaster ride. He's had some impressive moments, sure, but he's also had some races that raised a few eyebrows. Take the Monaco Grand Prix for instance. He started strong, but an unfortunate incident left him trailing behind. Then there was the Miami Grand Prix. Despite having a competitive car, Lance struggled to make the mark. Comparing Lance to his teammates and other drivers, it's clear he's facing a tough battle. While he's shown glimpses of brilliance, he's yet to consistently match the performance levels of the seasoned veterans like Alonso or the current champion Verstappen, and that's crucial for his future. So what does this all mean for Lance? Is he just going through a rough patch, or is this indicative of a deeper issue? Can he step up his game and prove his worth, or will he remain in the shadows of his more consistent peers? It's a tough call, and one that could change the course of his career and potentially the future of Aston Martin in Formula One. So where does this all leave Lance Stroll? Well, his performance undoubtedly has a ripple effect on Aston Martin's journey to the top. In motorsport, and indeed any team sport, individual players can make or break the game, and in Lance's case, the stakes are even higher. On one hand, Lance's raw talent and experience make him a valuable asset, but on the other, his inconsistent form could be a barrier to the team's success. So it's a tricky question. Does Lance still deserve a seat at Aston Martin? There are valid arguments on both sides. Those in favour point out his 3 podium finishes and his tenacity on the track. But critics argue that he simply hasn't shown the consistency that Aston Martin needs as they aim to climb the championship ladder. But we don't have to rely on just our observations. Let's consider what other experts in the field are saying. Some praise his work ethic and drive, while others suggest he's been judged too harshly. Yet there are those who feel that Lance needs to tap into that final bit of performance that separates good drivers from great ones. Now let's talk about the real conundrum that Aston Martin faces. It's the million-dollar question revolving around Lance Stroll. His performance, or rather inconsistency, is a riddle that's proving to be tricky for the team. You see, when your driver isn't pulling his weight consistently, it has a way of throwing a wrench into your championship dreams. It's like being in a rowboat where one person isn't rowing hard enough. You end up going around in circles. The thing is, Lance is not just any other driver. He's good, sometimes even great. But does Aston Martin need great when they can aim for the best? Remember, in a sport like Formula 1, the difference between great and best can be mere fractions of a second, and these tiny moments can decide the fate of championships. So this brings us to another pressing question. Is there a better driver out there to partner Alonso? Is there someone who can bring those fraction of a second victories and help Aston Martin steer clear of the rowboat conundrum? The future for Lance and Aston Martin is intertwined, much like a dance, and it all hinges on Lance's performance. If he finds his rhythm, consistently starts clocking points, we could see Aston Martin standing sore. But if his performance continues to hit sour notes, well, that's a melody that might lead to Aston Martin considering a change in its driver lineup. With all these scenarios, one thing is clear, there's a whole lot at stake. For Lance, it's about proving he deserves his seat at Aston Martin. For Aston Martin, it's about choosing the right driver to continue their quest for the championship. So, back to the question we started with. Should Lance stay or should he go? Well, that's not for us to decide, but we're certainly along for the ride to see how this story unfolds. So, what do you think? Can Lance bounce back from his current form? And should Aston Martin keep faith in him or consider a new driver? We want to hear from you, so drop your thoughts in the comment section down below.